All right, guys, it is the last piece of the linkage institution puzzle, the mass media. And as soon as we're done with this, we're through with a 150 slide PowerPoint. This is pretty amazing. You guys have done a great job toughing it out, and I definitely appreciate it. So the main question here, right, is what role does the media play in all of this? Obviously, you can't have a society without free press in today's globalized world, without everyone getting mad at you. And the United States has pretty much always had one. Question, I guess, again, is what role do they play and how do they function as a linkage institution? So the term mass media, just by itself, refers to basically any form of media. I know we don't use the term mass media much anymore. We specify, we talk about like television or print media, news media, social media, kind of as separate categories. But for the record, mass media just refers to all of it. And it is the only linkage institution that deals with communication specifically. So the four main types: we have social media, we have newspapers, we have television, and we have radio, which today is basically just podcasts. I do have a question here, and I just want you to kind of consider it. Should social media and social media outlets, should it be regulated like television? Should there be things you can and can't say? Should people be held responsible for having, fake information published on their social media platform, like you would if it was published on television? Just some things to consider. So this is the most important piece, the roles of the media. So first piece is they inform the public. That is like the main goal of freedom of the press, is to have a media that tells the public what the government is doing and if that is legal or not. Obviously, the government's never going to come out and say, hey, we're doing something illegal, right? So it's the media's job to basically let everyone know when that's happening. And in doing that, they shape public opinion. We try to think of the media as like this unbiased third party that just tells us what is going on. But the reality is media outlets shape people's opinions about what things are going on, if those things are good or bad or whatever. And they do that to increase their viewers, but also just because that's kind of what they do. They want to get people informed about, like, for example, let's say the government's doing something wrong. They want you to think the government is doing something wrong. They're shaping your opinion. So again, I know we want to think of the media as unbiased, but that's just not the case. All media outlets have bias. And the media provides a link between citizens and the government. That's why it's a linkage institution. Okay, the three functions of media, this is going to be like I said, this is the most important thing. This is going to be all over your AP test, like everywhere. We're going to go over what all of these mean in just a moment. First piece, they're going to serve as a watchdog, just like the minority party in Congress does. They're going to say, hey, they're doing something wrong. A gatekeeper and a scorekeeper are the other two terms. And again, we're going to go into all three of these in depth. So let's talk about watchdog first. The goal of the media when it comes to acting as a watchdog is to ensure that the government is not doing anything wrong. If the government does something wrong, it's the media's job to report on it. This is like what the media is for in a free society. The government, again, like I said earlier, is never going to come out and say, hey, we're doing something wrong, we're doing something illegal. It is the job of the media to come out and say, hey, the government did this thing, it's really bad, and we should hold them accountable. Because we as a country believe in the rule of law. Nobody is above the law. It doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States. You need to be held accountable if you break the law. And that is what the media does. It says, hey, they broke the law. We need to investigate. Second piece, gatekeeper. I feel like gatekeeper and scorekeeper, these two are unfamiliar to you. So definitely make sure that you guys handle this. Think about it this way. When you go to college, especially if you go to PWI, can't really say for HBCUs, but at PWIs especially, let's say there's a frat party. There's always going to be a guy up front called the gatekeeper. And he's basically going to ask you, who do you know here? And if you know someone, you're allowed in. And if you don't know anyone, then you got to leave. There are some exceptions to that. Like, for example, if it's like a bunch of dudes and you're an attractive female, I mean, they're going to let you in anyway. But nevertheless, that person's job is a gatekeeper. They choose who comes in and who has to go. Media does the same thing. They choose what is news, so essentially what they report on, and what is not news. Sometimes it's even more nuanced than that. Sometimes it's, okay, there's a thing going on that we absolutely have to cover. So which part of the event are we going to focus on? And this is how a lot of bias is shaped. So, for example, if we were to talk about the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol, for media outlets that report that as an insurrection, as like a terrible, attack on our democracy, they're going to focus on the bad parts. They're going to focus on the fact that people planted pipe bombs outside the Capitol building. Whereas if a media outlet is sympathetic to those people, maybe they support the folks that stormed into the Capitol, maybe they'll talk about how, they were peacefully protesting outside the Capitol prior to, them ending up inside of it. They're going to make it look as less terrible, or as least terrible as possible. So not only can you choose what is and isn't news, but also which part of the event to focus on. I need you guys to keep this in mind the entire time. Media earns money through advertising. That's the case for everything. Social media, television, all of it. They earn money through advertising. So they're going to want to maximize their viewership. And to do that, they essentially, like, each media outlet has like a following of people whose bias is identical to that media outlet's bias. So Fox News, for example, has a conservative bias. So conservative people would watch Fox over other things, whereas MSNBC has a liberal bias. So liberals would watch MSNBC over Fox. That is because they want their suspicions, they want their opinions to be validated by a media outlet. Media outlets are seen as like the arbiters of truth, right? I mean, if you think about their function as a watchdog, right? You want that watchdog to be on your side fighting for you. And the term wrong is subjective, right? Something, maybe a media outlet reports, hey, the government's doing something wrong, but you don't think that particular thing is bad, So people want their biases confirmed. And that is how media outlets make money. They can shape your opinion based on what they put on there. Either what is news or which part of a news event do I focus on. So, for example, Fox News. This is earlier this year. Fox News, and these are all at the same time, is talking about how a Democratic governor, Andrew Cuomo of New York, had 5 women accuse him of sexual assault and or harassment. So improper sexual conduct in the workplace. So Fox News is going to talk about that. Fox News, has a conservative base of viewers who are mostly Republican, and the Democrat here is the bad guy. So they are going to spend a lot of time talking about how this was a terrible, terrible event. The Democrats are awful, etc. At the exact same time, this is what MSNBC is reporting. So a Republican senator delays a COVID-19 relief bill by forcing the speaker to read all 628 pages out loud. These are happening at the same time. You may have no idea. Oh my God, they're coming over the announcements. I'm so sorry. I can't stop the recording at this point. I'm so sorry. Again, all chances are to go on the college tour to UAB and CR, they come here for a wish, so stay in the center. They are do that. I'm so sorry. March the 2nd. This Wednesday, March the 2nd, in the media center. If you have any questions, your career coaches, you will talk about what this tour is. You have no list of the problems. A 2.0 HPA, must be in school uniform, a signed permission slip, and you must be a junior. All right, God bless you, juniors. I apologize for that. So again, this is happening at the exact same time. So if you only watch Fox News, you would have absolutely no idea that a Republican senator delayed a COVID-19 relief bill by forcing all 628 pages to be read out loud. If you only watch MSNBC, you might have no idea that a Democratic governor was accused of sexual assault. Now, it's possible that each of these news organizations covered them at later points in the day. That's true. But I'm just trying to illustrate how it is very possible for entire news events to be completely left out. And that is because media gatekeeps. They choose what is or isn't news. And they choose how much time to spend on everything. Fox News talked about this all day. MSNBC talked about this almost all day. This makes the Republicans look bad, right? They're delaying a relief bill to everyone, whereas this makes Democrats look bad. So each media outlet chooses what is and isn't news, which aspects of a news story to cover, and also how long to cover those things. Those are all examples of gatekeeping. So that is what that term is for. Let me move myself out of the screen again. I'm so sorry. That way you can see. Okay, last piece, scorekeeper is exactly what it sounds like. So who wins an event, basically? A scorekeeper at a basketball game or whatever is gonna keep track of the score and then report the score when the game is done. Same thing, they're gonna report an event and they're gonna talk about who wins at the end of an event. Your bias is gonna determine the winner. So the winner is almost predetermined every single time. Because again, media outlets earn money through advertisements, and this goes for social media, everything. So outlets work to try and reinforce their viewers' biases. So it's almost impossible for like the quote unquote team that you're rooting for to lose if you watch the right media. This is the most interesting example of a scorekeeper. Oh my goodness. So this is during one of the Trump impeachments where Trump was being impeached for basically withholding foreign aid to Ukraine unless Ukraine started an investigation into Joe Biden's son. Which I know is kind of complicated. If you didn't follow that, that's okay. Just know that Trump was being impeached because he was basically bribing Ukraine to do something politically good for him. Okay, so this is at the exact same time, the literal exact same sentence. This is Ambassador William Taylor. He is the United States ambassador to Ukraine. And I just want you to look at what his credentials are according to each news outlet. So according to Fox News, William Taylor is a never Trumper, meaning he doesn't like Trump. He has a bias against him already. The things that he knows is considered by Fox News to be triple hearsay, meaning he heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy. So they're trying to say it's not valuable, it's not firsthand knowledge, no one cares. And then lastly, they're saying he had no firsthand knowledge about what was going on in Ukraine. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So if you are watching this event, you are thinking to yourself, I don't trust this guy, nothing he says matters. At the exact same moment, the exact same sentence, this is what MSNBC says. He is the top diplomat to Ukraine, meaning he knows what goes on in Ukraine. He has a clear understanding that the aid to Ukraine was tied to a probe into Joe Biden's son. And he said that it would be crazy to withhold military aid to Ukraine. So if you are watching this, you're going to think this guy knows what he's talking about. He is a professional, and Trump clearly did something wrong. This is the exact same sentence at the exact same time. And the media outlet can basically shape the outcome of an event, of what you think about what happened, without actually doctoring what the person is saying, simply by putting up something like this. So again, scorekeeping is declaring a winner of an event, whereas gatekeeping is saying what is and is not news. So this is the same exact event, but we have good guys and bad guys here, right? And the news outlet is determining the good or the bad guy. Now, just a couple other smaller things for the record. So the White House does give press briefings through the Office of the Press Secretary. President Trump stopped press briefings about halfway through his tenure as president, and then President Biden started them up again. So Jen Psaki is his press secretary. President Trump had Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is likely our next governor of Arkansas, as his press secretary. That's her right there. Now, just a couple other terms just to be familiar with. News releases, which I've sent a bunch of these in my lifetime. They're just basically pre-prepared statements that an organization gives to a media outlet for that media outlet to release. So this is just saying, like, on behalf of so-and-so, this is, what they have to say. News briefings, the great example would be the press secretary. This is when a person comes out, they give a statement, and then they answer some questions from the press. For those of you guys who watched President Biden's speech right after Ukraine was invaded by Russia, you saw one of these happen, and it's pretty insane. It wasn't a thing under the Trump administration. It was brought back under the Biden administration. Let's see, news conferences. So this is basically a pre-rehearsed media circus almost. So basically, like, you have pre-planned questions from people in the audience. You give a statement, just like a press briefing, but the questions are rehearsed ahead of time, and you already have a preset answer to them. It's just a different format. And then really important thing for you guys to know for your test is leaks. So these are essentially information that is given to the media that shouldn't be public knowledge. Usually people that leak information do it anonymously. So, you receive information as a media person from somebody, and you have no idea who they are, but they're giving you some valuable information, and you should probably tell people that information. C-SPAN, which stands for Cable Satellite Public Affairs Network. This is paid for by the government. You have it on all TV packages, and it is 24/7 news coverage of everything going on in Washington, D.C. There's no commentary here. So they basically take scorekeeping out of the equation, and gatekeeping can't really happen because they only cover certain things all the time. So anytime that there's like a debate in Congress over something, or you want to watch a vote on something happen, watch C-SPAN and decide for yourself if you don't want your opinion to be biased by gatekeeping and scorekeeping. This has also allowed people to watch Congress work, which is a very novel thing. We were one of the first people to do that. Now there's multiple C-SPAN channels because maybe you want to watch the House or the Senate, and they're showing both. So just kind of an interesting thing. Check it out if you can. Let's see. So media bias tends to be against incumbents. So I know we haven't talked too much about elections. We're going to. An incumbent is someone that already holds a spot, and media bias tends to be against them. As an American, we love underdogs. And also, there's just more dirt on someone that's already been in office, someone that's already been in the public spotlight, a front runner as well. So they're definitely gonna try and create drama as much as they can. So the closer a race is, the more a news story sells. The last piece on your notes, right, is pack journalism. And this is the idea that journalists adopt the viewpoints of other journalists because they spend a lot of time together. Like, just like any profession, maybe you have work friends, you know, I have work friends that I hang out with that I met at work. My opinions and their opinions tend to become more similar because we just have conversations. So pack journalism is this idea that journalists have similar ideas because they spend a lot of time together. And people argue that that bias is a liberal bias. So this also, for the record, keeps conservative news outlets conservative and liberal outlets liberal, because the journalists who work there are either probably conservative or liberal, and they only hang out with themselves. So if you work for Fox News, for example, and you have a conservative bias, you're gonna spend time with coworkers at Fox News, and your conservative bias is gonna be confirmed by other conservatives. So that's pack journalism. Just some interesting charts, and then we'll get out of here. So this is obviously biased because it's media, but it is an attempt to be not biased. This is done by All Sides, which is a nonprofit organization that works towards eliminating media bias entirely. And this kind of goes to show you where different news outlets stand on the political spectrum, from very liberal to very conservative. I don't know why it's L and R, I guess left and right, sorry. And then in the center, so left, center, right, that makes sense. So on the far left, you have MSNBC, like I said, and on the far right, you have Fox. So just to kind of show you guys, you can feel free to look over this on your own time. The Associated Press is generally the most middle possible, but they also don't give commentary on anything. So that's why. And just to touch on that real quick, does unbiased media exist? The answer is basically no. So the media reproduces content, meaning something happened and the media is reproducing that thing. They're talking about it again. That by definition is bias. Anytime that you talk about something, you are biased about it. You can't really avoid that. So any commentary that's added on literally anything, you're scorekeeping, which means it's biased. It could be something really like innocuous, you know? It could be like, what color is the sky? Oh, the sky is blue. Hey, that's scorekeeping. You're trying to influence me to believe that the sky is blue. Something even that simple just goes to show you literally everything is technically biased. The media also objectively functions as a gatekeeper. You literally can't report on everything. Like, for example, the stuff I teach, like, has never been on the news, but it happens every day. It's an event, you know. No one on CNN says like, Martell's kids learned about iron triangles today. But it could be news if they chose it to be. So all media outlets are inherently biased because they have to choose what to cover. So in order essentially to get information without any bias, you have to go directly to the source. That's the only way. And even then, you're still getting only one side of the story, unless the event only involved one person. If it comes to politics, the easiest way to get unbiased information is to watch whatever's happening on C-SPAN. C-SPAN is just, you're literally watching what's happening. You're a fly on the wall in the House of Representatives or the Senate, and you can watch whatever is going on, whether it's the debate on a bill or whatever, you can see it happen live. No commentary, just watching what's happening. And the Associated Press, like I said earlier, is the closest you can get to an unbiased news source because it doesn't provide commentary either. It just sends out a press release to all of the news outlets and they republish them with commentary. So that is it for the media. That is it for the PowerPoint. We did it. I'm proud of you guys. Love y'all. And let me know if you have any questions.